Welcome to Excellent Recaps. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of a crime thriller movie that will completely mess with your brain. By the end, you won't even be able to figure out who killed whom. So let's dive into the movie. At the beginning of the movie, we see this woman. She is a housemaid who has come to work at a house. As the maid enters her employer's house, she screams in shock because she finds her employer murdered. Her employer is a singer named Lila. Soon, the police are informed, and they arrive at the crime scene. This man here is the police commissioner. The woman speaking to him is Sandhya, a police officer. The commissioner tells Sandhya to take Vinayak's help in investigating this case. And Dayak is the main character of this movie, and a police officer. Sandhya hesitates and tells the commissioner, given his current mental state, will he even agree to take this case? The commissioner replies, it will be tough, but you have to convince him. Then, Sandhya goes to meet Binayak. There, she asks Binayak to help solve the case, but Binayak doesn't want to do it anymore. A few days ago, Binayak's daughter had an accident, and now she is fighting for her life in the hospital. So he wants to devote all his time to his daughter. Binayak sadly tells Sandhya that on the day of the accident, his daughter didn't want to go anywhere, but he had forced her to go out with him. She had wanted to watch the finals of a singing show. Then, Sandhya tells Binayak that the winner of that singing show has died. Later, Sandhya gives Binayak pictures of the deceased singer to look at. As Binayak looks at the pictures, he starts thinking about investigating the case. At that moment, the scene of his daughter's accident flashes before his eyes. The next scene shifts to the police station, where a police officer asks Sandhya to hush up the case. However, Sandhya refuses to agree to this. Then, the police officer starts making inappropriate remarks about the deceased singer. At that moment, Binayak arrives at the police station and confronts the officer, protesting against his comments. Binayak says, I didn't want to be involved in this case earlier, but from now on, I will take charge of it. Then, Binayak steps out of the police station and asks Sandhya who was the first to discover the singer's body. Sandhya replies that it was the housemaid. Binayak then instructs Sandhya to find out how the housemaid entered the house. Sandhya proceeds to interview the housemaid. When Sandhya asks her about how she entered the housemaid explains, Madam had given me a duplicate key. I used it in the morning to avoid disturbing her sleep. Sandhya then questions the housemaid about whether she had come to work on the day her madam was murdered. The housemaid confirms, yes, I came. Sandhya further asks if anyone else had visited that day. The housemaid replies, no one came while I was there, but madam had mentioned that Satish would be coming. Sandhya asks the housemaid about who Satish is. The housemaid explains to Sandhya, Satish is madam's close friend, and his grandmother is a high court judge. After gathering this information, Sandhya decides to go and interview Satish to learn more about his connection to the case. Then, Sandhya questions Satish, asking, did you go to the singer's house on the day she was murdered? Satish replies, I took her out to dinner at a restaurant, and there, I even proposed to her. Sandhya then asks Satish if he noticed any unusual behavior from her that day. Satish says, yes, when I dropped her off at her apartment, I heard her screaming from outside. The doorman and I went to her door and asked from outside if everything was okay, but she said, nothing happened, you can leave. So I left. Next, Sandhya asks Satish, do you know any of Lila's other friends? Satish responds, I only know one of her friends. His name is Arjun, and he is a model photographer. After finishing the interview, Sandhya is about to leave when Satish's grandmother, the High Court judge, confronts her and asks, why did you come here without informing me? Sandhya replies, I tried calling you, but your phone was switched off. The judge then sternly says, from now on, do not come here without informing me. Sandhya leaves and proceeds to interview the apartment security guard who had reported the incident to the police. Sandhya questions the security guard, asking, who was the last person to visit Lila's apartment before she was murdered? The guard mentions that Satish was the last one to visit Lila's apartment before the murder. He further explains that after Satish left, Lila suddenly screamed. Both the guard and Satish went to her door, but Lila called out from inside, saying, I'm fine, after which Satish left. The guard also says, something felt off to me, so I went closer to Lila Madam's door. At that moment, I had a feeling that there was someone else inside the room. Then, Sandhya asks the security guard, did you see that man? The guard replies, no, it wasn't my shift at that time. Another guard, Yadav, was on duty. Sandhya asks, did you see that man leaving? The guard says, no madam, I didn't see anyone leaving. Then Sandhya says, what if that man left through the back door? The guard replies, madam, that's the fire exit. If that door is opened, an alarm would sound, but I didn't hear any alarm. After that, Sandhya and Binayak interrogate Yadav, the guard from the other shift. Binayak time. The guard replies. Bablu came, claiming to be Laila's manager, but Laila madam wasn't in the apartment at that time, so Bablu left. Then, Vinayak and Sandhya enter Laila's apartment, where Laila was murdered, and call Laila's house help for questioning. Vinayak asks the housemaid, "Did Bablu often come to meet Laila?" The housemaid replies, "Bablu used to come to meet Laila madam, but she didn't pay much attention to him. He last met her 10 days ago." Then, Vinayak notices dog food in the apartment. He asks the house help, "Whose dog is here?" The house help replies, "A boy named Vinod lives in the next flat. He is slightly mentally challenged, but he had a very good relationship with Laila madam." Then, Vinayak asks Sandhya, "Did you interrogate him?" Sandhya replies, "No sir, he is mentally challenged, so I didn't question him." Then, Sandhya and Vinayak go to interview Arjun. Arjun is the friend of Laila that Laila's boyfriend, Satish, had mentioned. Before interviewing Arjun, Sandhya interviews Laila co-model. Laila used to do some modeling, along with singing. Sandhya questions the model about Arjun, trying to understand his character. The model then tells Sandhya that Arjun is a bit short-tempered, and used to treat the models poorly. She also mentions that Arjun had an argument with Laila 10 days ago. After this, Vinayak and Sandhya proceed to interview Arjun. There, Arjun is seen with his hand bandaged. When asked about his hand, Arjun says, "I fell in the bathroom." Then, Sandhya asks him where he was on the day of Laila's death. Arjun replies, "I had gone to an event." Sandhya then shows Arjun a picture, which is CCTV footage from the backside of Laila's apartment. Vinayak then says to Arjun, "Before Laila was killed, a message was sent from her phone to yours. Should we show that too?" Arjun finally admits, "Yes, Laila had messaged me. I thought she wanted to resolve our old argument. Laila asked me to come through the back door, so I went to the back door." Vinayak asks Arjun, "Did you enter Laila's apartment?" Arjun denies it. Then, Vinayak and Sandhya go to interview Vinod. Vinod is the mentally challenged boy that Laila's servant had mentioned to Vinayak. The movie then shows how Vinod and Laila had met. Sandhya shows Vinod a picture of Laila and asks, "Do you recognize her?" Vinod replies, "Yes, I know her. Laila was my best friend." Sandhya then asks Vinod, "Since you were Laila's best friend, did she share any secrets with you?" Vinod says, "One day, I asked Laila about her boyfriend, Satish. Laila told me that Satish was a bit different. One day, Laila got a tattoo on her hand and showed it to Satish. Satish was drinking juice at the time. When he saw the tattoo, he suddenly squeezed the glass so hard that it broke, and shards of glass got stuck in his hand. Suddenly, Satish started muttering Yamini, Yamini repeatedly. Hearing this, Sandhya is a bit surprised and asks Vinod again, "Did Laila share anything else with you? If you tell us everything, we can catch Laila's murderer quickly." Then suddenly, Vinod says to Sandhya, "I know who killed Laila." Hearing this, Sandhya is startled. Then Vinod takes Sandhya and Vinayak to his room. There, Vinod starts doing something on the computer. Sandhya is amazed that a mentally challenged boy understands so much about computers. Then Vinod shows a picture of a man on the computer screen and says, "This is the murderer, and his name is Aditya." Vinayak then tells Sandhya, "Find out everything about this man." The next scene transitions into a flashback where it is shown that Aditya offers Laila a modeling opportunity, and from there, Laila's modeling journey begins. Laila then meets the owner of the modeling agency and starts her modeling career. Gradually, Laila becomes a successful model. One day, Aditya calls Laila to a hotel and offers her a big modeling project. However, to accept this offer, Laila would have to spend the night with Aditya. Laila refuses this condition and rejects Aditya's offer. Walking away, the next scene shifts to Arjun, where someone calls him and says, "I know you killed Laila, and now you need to pay to keep it hidden." After saying this, the caller hangs up. The following scene then transitions to Aditya, where he is seen looking at a bond paper. This bond paper is actually the agreement for Laila's modeling project, the same project for which Aditya had asked her to spend the night with him. The next scene transitions into a flashback, where it is shown that the owner of the modeling agency is scolding Aditya. This is because Aditya had assured the owner that Laila would take on the modeling project and had even signed the bond paper. However, the owner of the agency knows Aditya's nature and suspects that he might have mistreated Laila, which is why Laila refused to sign the agreement. The owner further warns Aditya, saying, "If you can't get Laila's signature, I will make your life in this office unbearable." Aditya is deeply stressed about this situation. At that moment, Aditya's assistant enters and informs him that the police have come to see him, and then it is seen that Vinayak has come to meet Aditya. There, Vinayak shows Aditya a CCTV footage footage image. In reality, Aditya was spotted on the CCTV camera at the back of Laila's apartment. Then, Vinayak questions Aditya. How do you know Laila? What is your connection with her? Aditya then says, I first met Laila at a reality show event. After that, I offered her a modeling opportunity, and she agreed. She started modeling, and later, an international modeling company selected her. For signing the modeling agreement, I invited Laila to a hotel, but she refused, saying that she would no longer continue modeling. Laila was given a bad offer by Aditya, which Aditya hides from Vinayak. Then, Vinayak shows Aditya a picture and asks, why did you meet this person? And this person is Bablu. Bablu is the one who tells everyone that he is Laila's manager. Then, Aditya says, I met Bablu because there had been no news about Laila for a long time, so I met Bablu to search for Laila. It was very important for me to convince Laila for the modeling assignment. One day, Bablu told me to come to Laila's apartment through the back door. When I went to Laila's apartment, I found that Laila was already dead there. Then, Vinayak asks, why didn't you file a police complaint? Aditya replies, I was scared. I already have so many problems in my life, so I didn't want to invite any new trouble. After finishing the interview with Aditya, Vinayak leaves. On the other hand, it is seen that Sandhya is searching for Bablu and planning to catch him. Then the scene shifts to Aditya, where someone calls Aditya and says, I know you killed Laila, and now you have to give me money to keep my mouth shut. The person who called Aditya is Bablu. Earlier, Bablu had called Arjun and demanded money, but after calling Aditya and demanding money, Bablu hangs up. Aditya then becomes extremely stressed because the owner of the modeling agency is already angry with him, and now he is dealing with police inquiries and someone demanding money over the phone. Unable to handle all the pressure, Aditya commits suicide. Meanwhile, Vinayak receives a call from the hospital informing him that his daughter is critically ill and her condition is worsening. Shortly after, Vinayak's daughter passes away. In the next scene, it is shown that Sandhya has caught Bablu and takes him to the police station. Meanwhile, Vinayak receives a phone call, and the caller tells him about Yamini. Yamini is the person Vinod had mentioned earlier, stating that glass had pierced Satesh's hand. As the caller keeps mentioning Yamini's name, he instructs Vinayak to come to a central district jail. Earlier, Vinayak had asked this person to investigate Yamini. After checking some records and files at the central jail, Vinayak discovers that Yamini was actually murdered 12 years ago, and the judgment in that case was delivered by Laila's boyfriend, Satesh's grandmother. Then Vinayak arrives at the police station where he tells Bablu, I know you didn't commit the murder, but you witnessed it because on the day Laila was murdered, you were hiding inside her cupboard. Vinayak had studied the case thoroughly and understood many things, which is why he said this to Bablu. However, Bablu denies it, and shortly after, Bablu's lawyer arrives and gets him released on bail. Then, Sandhya says to Vinayak, if you wanted, you could have extracted the truth from him in just 2 minutes. Why did you let him go without revealing the truth? Vinayak replies, I want to uncover the truth in a different way. I have assigned some people to follow him, and I am sure he will eventually contact the murderer. Through him, we will reach the killer. Then, Sandhya and Vinayak go to Laila's apartment. There, they start imagining and calculating how Laila might have been killed. Vinayak tells Sandhya, when Bablu came to the apartment, Laila wasn't there, but when Laila arrived, Bablu was already inside the apartment. Sandhya then says, according to Bablu's phone records, he had called Arjun and Aditya. Vinayak replies, before Arjun and Aditya arrived, Laila had already come back, and that's when Bablu hid inside the cupboard. Vinayak then tells Sandhya, go inside the cupboard and see what you can see through the keyhole. Sandhya goes inside the cupboard and, through the keyhole, sees a wall. This means that Bablu was inside the cupboard that day but couldn't have seen the murder. Vinayak then says to Sandhya, perhaps Arjun killed Laila and left through the back door, or maybe Aditya killed her and exited through the back door. Sandhya responds, but sir, if someone left through the back door, an alarm would have sounded. However, the guard didn't hear any alarm. Vinayak says to Sandhya, Bablu had arranged it. That day, I noticed an ice cube missing from the fridge. Bablu had placed the ice cube near the alarm bell, and slowly, as the ice cube melted, the bell didn't ring. Vinayak further tells Sandhya, for now, it seems like Arjun is the one who killed Laila, but I feel there's a connection between Laila's murder and Yamini's murder. When I investigated Yamini's case, I found out that Yamini was murdered 12 years ago. Sandhya then asks, sir, what is the connection between Yamini's murder and Laila's murder? Vinayak replies, I don't know yet, but that's exactly what we need to find out. In the next scene, it is shown that Vinayak's men are keeping an eye on Bablu, and Bablu realizes this. Then, misguides those men and goes to a gym's toilet. Actually, Bablu had asked Arjun for money earlier, and here, Bablu tells Arjun to bring the money. Then, it is shown that a man has brought the money, but his identity is not revealed. After that, the man kills Bablu. In the next scene, it is shown that Satish goes to the police station and asks Vinayak for permission to visit Laila's apartment. Vinayak asks him why he wants to go, and Satish explains that Laila had gifted him a guitar pick, and it was left behind in her apartment. He says that the guitar pick is a memory of Laila for him, and he wants to retrieve it. However, since the apartment is a crime scene, Vinayak denies him permission. As Satish is about to leave, Vinayak asks him if he knows someone named Yamini. Satish replies, "No, I don't know anyone by that name." On this side, the police have received news of Bablu's murder, and they go to investigate the murder scene. Then, the scene shifts to Vinayak going to Laila's apartment. Upon arriving there, Vinayak starts thinking about what piece of the case is missing, and why they are unable to catch the real killer. Later, Vinayak finds a photo album of Laila inside a sofa. On top of the album was written, "Sweet Memories," which reminds Vinayak of Satish telling him about a guitar pick as a memory of Laila. Vinayak then starts searching for whether there is any guitar pick in the apartment. Eventually, Vinayak finds a pen drive behind the TV. Then, the scene shifts to Arjun's house, where it is revealed that Arjun has died. On the mirror, it is written, "I did it," implying that Arjun committed suicide. After this, the corrupt officer declares Arjun as Laila's killer and closes the case. The next scene shifts to Vinayak, who arrives at Satish's house. Vinayak then says to Satish, "You wanted to go to Laila's apartment for this pen drive, didn't you?" Vinayak then begins to explain what happened on the day of Laila's murder. Vinayak says, "That day, after you and Laila returned from dinner, you killed Laila in her apartment. You used Laila's voice from this pen drive to create a statement of hers. When you killed Laila and were leaving the apartment, the voice from the pen drive started playing. Hearing the voice, the guard assumed Laila was still inside and fine, so no suspicion fell on you. On the day Bablu was taken to the police station, you came to the station to ensure that Bablu didn't reveal your name. To prevent the truth from coming out, you later killed Bablu. You also killed Arjun and wrote 'I did it' on his mirror to make everyone believe that Arjun committed suicide out of guilt for killing Laila. I have pieced everything together, but what about Yamini? What happened 12 years ago?" Then Satish says, "Yamini is my sister. 12 years ago, Yamini and I were playing hide and seek. During the game, Yamini hid inside a trunk, and by chance, the trunk got locked. Yamini was screaming from inside the trunk, but I didn't open it, because I enjoyed her struggle. That's why I didn't unlock the trunk, and Yamini died after 12 hours. The sound of Yamini's struggle used to echo in my ears, but ever since Laila came into my life, she kept disturbing me, and I could no longer hear Yamini's voice. That's why I killed Laila. Actually, Satish is a psycho who killed his sister and Laila for his own twisted pleasure. Then, Vinayak gives Sandhya the pen drive so that she can use it to arrest Satish. In the next scene, someone calls Satish and says, "You killed Laila, and I have proof of it. If you want to survive, come to this address." Later, it is revealed that the person who called is Vinod, who asked Satish to come there. Vinod shoots Satish and then commits suicide, Vinod being a mentally challenged boy, but he loved Laila deeply, so he killed Satish to avenge Laila's murder. He also no longer wanted to live, and here, the movie ends.